Beginners in wholesale real estate need to know this. Today I'm going to talk about a few things beginner wholesalers need to know in order to wholesale real estate and to get deals consistently. Now, the first thing I want to talk about for beginners in wholesale real estate is you have to put properties under contract at the right price. You have to know your numbers as much as you can, because this is the major gripe a lot of people have with wholesalers. They put a property under contract and they can't find a buyer. And when you can't find a buyer, you're telling the seller, hey, I'm going to close, I'm going to buy your property. You're not saying the right things. You're trying to not to tell them that you're not the one buying it. And so they get confused, they start packing, and then now you're 30, 60 days into this contract and you can't find a buyer. That's why you have this push of so many regulation and laws coming into different states, and it's going to spread across this country, and every state probably is going to have some sort of regulation around wholesale real estate, and rightly so for some wholesalers and wholesale companies. Now, a way to avoid that is to just know your numbers, right? Research, look at different videos I have about comping properties, knowing the ARV, knowing the offer price, wholesale price, and other things like that. And I can make an updated video on that. But one thing is that what you can do just quickly, you can go on websites like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, right? Look at a recently renovated property, or look at the price history, look at how much they bought the property for, right? And then look at how much they're listing the property for. And then if it's in the area, if it's the same beds, bath, and around the same square footage, you're good. Then base your offer around that price. Say, okay, it seems like this property may need more work, or a little bit more work, or less work, or more work. We don't know. I'm going to lower it a little bit more so I can make room for my $5,000 to $10,000 wholesale fee, or however much you want to make, and then go from there. And then just keep on learning about ARVs, home values, and how much things cost, right? Understand that inflation, you see it at your grocery store, you know, your end buyer sees it at their Home Depot store, right? And so you have to be like, you can't say, okay, something's going to cost $20,000, right? In today's market, you can't renovate a whole house for $20,000, you know, especially even just like basic cosmetic stuff for a 1,500 square foot house. If you're replacing flooring, you're doing paint, you're doing new kitchen cabinets, you're doing appliances, you're doing countertops, nothing with foundation, nothing with electrical, nothing with plumbing, nothing with all of that, you can still run you 30, 40 grand easily for those stuff. So knowing your numbers, knowing how much you need to put a property under contract is key, because that will help the industry as a whole and not put a bad light on the industry. So beginners need to know that. Don't put a property under contract if you're not confident at the price. And at the same time, I do want to say, you're not going to know everything. Even experienced wholesalers and investors, they don't know everything up front sometimes before they put a property under contract, and sometimes they do have to go back to the seller and renegotiate some sort of, you know, concession or difference to lower the price, right? Because I still don't want people to not do it at all because they don't know ARV. So there's a balance of, hey, you know, walk out in faith, you know, believe the skills and the knowledge that you learned, and go out there and put that property under contract. The next thing I want to talk about that beginners need to know, especially right now in wholesale real estate, that this is an opportune time to do wholesale real estate. I don't know how long this is going to last, but I'm seeing deals out there. I'm seeing sellers finally coming down on price with their homes, and they're finally coming to reality like, hey, I can't sell my home for this amount. I can't put this dilapidated property on the market on the MLS and just sell it easily. I need to go off market. The housing market has changed, right? In a lot of cities and a lot of metro areas, it's becoming a buyer's market, right? And when it's a buyer's market, it's great for wholesalers because you know that you can get a better price and you can sell it to investors that know it's a buyer's market that are looking to buy. This is a great time to purchase, because for me, one of my best years of wholesaling was actually in 2020. The housing market did speed up towards the end of the year, but before, when it first hit, I was getting deals. I was getting more conversations with people. Knowing that the housing market has slowed down a little bit, house prices are not dropping or anything like off a cliff or anything like that, but there is a slowdown in appreciation, and I'm seeing more and more house prices dropping, right? They're dropping their list price, and I was able to get 2 deals off the MLS over the past month and a half. One over 30% off, another one close to 20% off. right? Just from making an offer on the market. So if you're a wholesaler and you're looking to save some money and you don't have a ton of money up front, possibly wholesale off the MLS. Now, the other thing that I want to speak on in regards to beginners needing to know this with wholesale real estate is that, yes, it doesn't cost a lot of money to get started, but there's still some upfront costs with starting wholesale real estate. And so, especially if you're not doing it off the MLS, you're using different services, which are beneficial actually for you getting your first deal. It's effective and it speeds up you getting that first deal. So data lists, postcards, phone numbers, different softwares that you may need, driving to meetups, driving to meet up with a seller. So that's gas money. All of these things do cost money. So that's something that beginners need to know. It's not just $0. There's always some sort of cost associated with wholesaling real estate that you need to understand. In regards to different services, I have to plug in PropStream, you all. I use that software to find motivated sellers off market, distressed properties where you can get great discounted properties and find your very first wholesale deal. So if you all are interested in PropStream, check my link down below. You get a 7 free day trial using my link. So check out PropStream down below. Now, different costs. You have to do mailers. You have to pay for that subscription for the data software, for the leads, essentially the phone numbers, the property addresses, and everything like that. So you can target, so you can send out mail or other things like that. That's another major thing. You have to understand that it does cost some sort of money wholesaling real estate, and it's not just free and you can do whatever. Now, the final thing that I want to speak on in regards to wholesaling real estate for beginners is that you're not going to know everything. There's fear involved with any new business, with doing something that you're not used to. So you have to understand that, yes, I know I talked about earlier, knowing your numbers. Yes, knowing your numbers is important, but don't let that stop you. Yes, understanding this or that, or being too nervous because you don't want to go to a seller and actually talk to them and see if they're willing to sell. Like, you got to think about the end goal. You're trying to make some money, right? You're trying to prepare, your family's future, right? You're trying to provide. You're trying to do all these things. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind, and hopefully that can push you through your fears and let you see other things from a different perspective so you can go forward and do well in wholesale real estate. All right, you all, hope you all enjoyed this video on different advice I would give beginners right now, and advice that they need to know right now if they want to get started with wholesale real estate. If you all have any questions, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and I'll talk to you all later.